What did you not understand as a kid, but you now understand as an adult? When my parents said no to something like having a sleepover and there was no good obvious reason, it's because they just didn't want to deal with all the bullshit. Sometimes parents just want to be left alone and have time to themselves without having to babysit the rest of the neighborhood. As a kid I used to think that if people worked harder /more they were paid more. So for instance I would purposefully make a little mess at retail stores, movie theaters, restaurants, etc., since the more they cleaned up the more they got paid. Now I just feel like I was that many adults are dumb as. The quote, "The days get longer but the years get shorter." After having a child that one's just hitting me in the gut now. That life was short. Now I'm in my 60s and I am astonished of how short life really is. I could never grasp the concept of breaking change for larger bills. For example, as a kid you have classroom events where every student was asked to bring $15 for whatever it is the teacher was buying. If my mom gave me $3.5s and another kid brought a $20, the teacher would take my money and immediately turn around and hand the other kid one of my $5 bills. In my mind she was giving my money away. Why is she giving my money away? Why am I giving money to this other kid? Took too long to figure that one out. When I was 10 I asked my mom what it was and she told me it was just a term for a quick, easy job you do for someone. As a kid I just took that at face value, but as an adult I now understand she did a fine job of skirting around that one. Not sure if this has already been mentioned, but Helga Pataki from Hey Arnold. As a kid, I thought she was an ugly weird girl. As an adult, my mind was blown when I realized how neglected she was. Her mom was an alcoholic and her dad was a narcissist who favored Olga and made her the golden child. Most of the characters have pretty sad stories, honestly. That show was deep and I never realized it as a child. The value of all the I trashed or broke. How grown-ups fall asleep after Sunday lunch, Christmas dinner, etc. It was so boring as a kid, but now I fully understand the value of afternoon naps in the sun after a roast dinner. When I was a kid I used to get upset at my dad for falling asleep whenever we tried watching a movie together. Now, as an adult I understand the reason he fell asleep was that he was so tired from working 2 jobs trying to give me the best childhood he possibly could. On top of that, even though he was exhausted, he still made an effort to try and spend some quality time with me. Not everyone is inclined to do the right thing. Some people are selfish jerks and it sucks, but you just have to accept it and do what you believe is right. There are a lot of awesome people out there too, and you can't get too cynical about the world because of the people in it. There are much more appealing food options than hot dogs and mac and cheese. That not everything turns out okay. Every kid's plot, movie/TV/books, ends with basically all issues resolved, and more often than not, a happy ending. It really wasn't until adulthood that I realized that some people have life on them and it never gets better. That no matter how much you hope, some things must turn out sad and that's it. You do not suddenly know anything the second you cross the line from kid to adult. Why my parents wouldn't let me eat 3 fruit roll-ups per day. as a 13-year-old shelf stacker in a supermarket. I asked my successful and wealthy boss, how did you manage to do all this? He owns several stores, properties, investments, etc. He said, anyone can do this. I wake up and put my pants on one leg at a time like everyone else. Finally understood that saying properly from then on. That pickles and cucumbers are both cucumbers. That no one around you really cares about the things you think they do. No one that matters cares about the brand of your clothes. No one is really concerned with the things you are achieving or are not achieving. No one is really concerned about how you look in that outfit. We are all just worried about what everyone else is thinking when no one is really that obsessed with us. When we spend time taking care of ourselves and not worrying about other people, it becomes easier to follow your own goals, not feel so trapped by outside pressures, and genuinely cheer on other people to their own successes. When I was a kid, my dad used to tell me and my sisters that all we have in this world is each other. 15 years later, I'm moving to a different state all on my own, and the only people I want to see before I leave are my sisters. I couldn't never grasp the concept that everything, even friends, are replaceable, but those two shitheads are always gonna be in my heart. When I was younger, I thought that if you dug a hole to the center of the earth and threw a grenade in there, you would destroy the world. I now know that is untrue. Getting your work done is more important than being naturally intelligent. That every single thing my parents did, they did because they love me. Even the stuff I hated. Especially the stuff I hated. Why my mum drank so much. How to play Minesweeper. I get it now. How babies can look like their parents or relatives instead of a generic baby. Compromise. I used to be a very black/white, right/wrong, with me or against me sort of person, with the high standards and liberal application of judgment to match. I've mellowed out, and I'm at a point in my life where empathy matters more to me than principle, most of the time. The hills worth dying on are far between. I find an honest exchange of perspectives much more worthwhile. In the words of Vonnegut, "Goddammit babies, you've got to be kind." 15-year-old me would call me a sellout, but then, I'm free to call 15-year-old me an idiot, and we're pretty much even. The Alanis Morissette lyric "You're my best friend /best friend with benefits from head over feet." I told my parents that my best friend was my best friend with benefits when I was like 8, and they laughed hysterically, and I just assumed it's because they weren't cool and into Alanis's music and didn't understand that it clearly meant super best friend. And amp, #X200B. And in a way I guess it does mean that. I used to think that if you saw someone who looked like your friend, then you also looked like their friend to them. It wasn't Mitchell and they never did wave back. That as a teenager you think you have figured out, but you'll look back in 5 years and think about how stupid you were but were unable to see. That everybody is flawed, in some way. Calvin and Hobbes jokes. Reread and there's new jokes every time. That there isn't a vegetable called a knuckle that I guessed was similar to eggplant. When my mom threatened to give me a knuckle sandwich, I assumed she was threatening to feed me something healthy and gross. My parents are flawed just like me and other people. Slowly came to see this. Still love them though. I thought raisins were an entirely different fruit. I didn't realize they were just dried grapes until I was 24. Never felt so stupid. My dad wasn't a workaholic, we just had bills to pay. That my parents were right about almost everything. Beer. That beer cannot taste good but also be good. Pain. When adults would say being older is just being in constant pain, actually, I didn't understand it in my 20s as well, but now that I'm close to 40, I'm getting it. Something is always off, but it's not insane rolling on the floor pain. The stress of paying bills and budgeting. My parents tried to keep this hidden from me, but I could tell how much they carefully budgeted. They also sacrificed for us kids. I didn't get that until I had a dog first and then children. You wouldn't care what people thought of you if you knew how seldom they think of you. The importance of discipline. Squidward. Everybody wipes there differently. What people actually do at work. I used to think that living beyond 24 was crazy and impossible. I used to think you would grow up to be a particular person instead of a larger version of yourself. I genuinely thought I could become Prince. I really thought I'd need the karate chop as a part of my adult life. When I watched The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown Linus says that you can't talk to people about religion, politics, and the Great Pumpkin. I didn't get why you couldn't talk to people about religion and politics. Now if I mention my thoughts on our government, there will be a flame war on both sides. Life isn't any different at 5'5". Why are so awesome? Young me. They just are. Old me. Why adults couldn't buy you fast food or toys every time we're out for a ride. It's because we're almost always close to being broke. I thought credit cards were infinite sources of cash.